Your voice, your community station. You are listening to IPL Radio.
All right, that was a little bit of Sunday Soup by Tiny James Organ. You are now listening to The Late Show with Kit Adams, and we have our next guest for the evening just arrived, Nikki Valentine. Nikki Valentine, am I saying that right? Valentine. I told you that earlier, You did. How you doing, Nikki?
Yeah, good.
Thanks for coming in. Yeah, doing all right. So, yeah, just chill, chat. I should have prepared a little bit more. As you probably realise, it's completely unscripted and uncut. But yeah, you're a comedian. For those who don't know Nikki, she is a comedian that you do a few local gigs and stuff like that.
Yeah. So I got into comedy. Only started last year, but it's been going really well, especially recently. So I do gigs around Perth, but I also producing my own fringe show next year.
Yeah.
Not a solo show. I'll be on the lineup, but I've got a lineup of comedians. It's quite a interesting show. It's a little bit unique because it's like comedy / strippers.
Yeah, I think I've seen something about that.
Yeah.
Hot blokes and
yes, hot blokes and spicy jokes.
that's the one. Yeah, cool. That sounds like an interesting show. Yeah, you should get some good attention for that one. But yeah, to be honest, I've only been doing this sort of thing for a couple of months, and as soon as I've sort of got into radio, started reaching out to comedians and stuff that I wanted to have in for interviews, and I didn't realise how big the comedy scene was here in WA, you know. So I found out about like the Comedy Lounge, obviously, and then Mandurah Comedy Club, the Oasis Club, and there's a few of them around. And
yeah. I was the same. I didn't really know much about the scene until I found myself in it, which happened really quickly. It wasn't planned. I just was standing in the mirror one day doing my makeup, and I was like laughing at my own stories that I was telling myself, and then I was like, well, they sound like jokes, and then I just practiced them and did an open mic next week, and the rest is history.
Awesome. Oh, cool. And where was the first place you did your open mic?
I was really lucky, actually. I got to do my first open mic at the Comedy Lounge, which is probably one of the best rooms to like try out, especially it's a really good audience, really warm audience. So even if you're not amazing, they're usually pretty good there, and it's a really good room. So, but they stopped doing the open mics that I was doing. My first one. That was last year. I
think they still do like a bit of a gong show. Have you
the
done the gong show?
Yeah, they do the gong show on Thursdays. I haven't been doing it as much lately since I moved to Mandurah.
Yeah.
But I'm moving back to Perth next year, so
right.
Try and get to the gong more often.
Yeah, cool. And how'd you sort of? I mean, stand-up comedy is just brutal sometimes. All those eyes on you, and I know that I feel like I'm talking to a lot of people right now. I don't really know how many listeners I've got, but I sort of feel isolated, whereas you've got all the eyes on you on stage. Did it take long to adjust to public speaking like that?
Oh, yeah, it still sucks.
Yeah, right. You still get the nerves and stuff like that?
I think I'm just a sucker for punishment because it is hard, like, especially, like, you've got to get up there and you want people to like you, and if they don't, you know.
Yeah, of course. It can be pretty brutal sometimes. Yeah. And sort of, what's your goals and stuff like? Would you ever look at going to Edinburgh Comedy Fest or something like that?
Yeah, definitely. I'll see how my first fringe show goes. Definitely want to travel around Australia. I've already had interest from people. Like, I went to Sydney recently and was talking to some local comedians there. So we'll see how this show goes in Perth for Perth Fringe, and then try it around Australia, and then maybe Edinburgh one day. But
very cool.
Yeah,
right. And what's the fringe show about? Is that the
so this one is just, so I have a rotating lineup of about 5 comedians each night, and then what it is, it's it's a ladies' night, but anyone's welcome. But it's marketed as a ladies' night, the ultimate girls' night out. So it's at a male strip club.
Yeah, right.
And so we'll have 4 male entertainers who will be providing they'll be waiting on us while the comedy. So there'll be an hour of comedy.
Yep.
And then at the end, the waiters will get up on top of the bar and do a bar top full Monty strip. So
very nice. It sounds like a win-win situation.
Yeah,
cool. And what's the sort of community like for comedy around? Is it sort of supportive and a lot of
definitely. I found it really good, actually, because so when I first got into comedy, I'd not long been separated or divorced.
Yeah.
And so I, like, as you go through those things, you often find your social circles changing.
Yeah.
So I found comedy was great for me because it came along at that time, and then I've made lots of friends in comedy, and it's a very supportive community. It's I'm really, really grateful for it, that it's come into my life and the people that I've met.
Yeah, cool. And where do you sort of feel like you draw most of your comedy from? Is it sort of like from going through divorce or just day-to-day life or?
Yeah, definitely inspired by my life.
Yeah.
Mostly. I've got some jokes that aren't about my actual life, but most of it is inspired by just taking the piss out of my own life.
Yeah, right.
Am I allowed to say that word on?
Yeah, sure. It's a late night show and stuff like that. I mean, we do go out around the world, but yeah, it's not too bad. We get away with a little bit here and there. It is sort of community radio, and we're up late and stuff. So, and Nate can beep it out in post when he's doing the editing and stuff like that. So it shouldn't be too much of a problem. Yeah. And do you find it's hard? Obviously, being a female in comedy, it has been for years sort of male dominated. Do you feel like you're sort of breaking down barriers and stuff like that, or?
I think in some ways, because there's not as many female comedians in the scene, and whatever the reasons are for that, but because there's not as many, I think sometimes we get the diversity higher.
Yeah, right. Yep.
So it's not too bad at the moment. I mean, I definitely notice like sometimes there'll be huge lineups and there'll be like no women or like only one woman. So it's definitely still a male dominated industry, but I'm making my way in.
No, that's cool. It's doing good. And sort of, who do you look to for inspiration?
Well, I was never like I like comedy. Like, I know everyone likes to laugh, but I didn't actually really follow anyone in particular when I started doing it. But I did. So the guy who did all my tattoos or most of my tattoos, he started getting into stand-up comedy like 10 or so years ago. And I remember when he first was like, oh, I'm going to do an open mic. And I was like, good on you, because he was always funny. And now he's a local pro comedian. He's a very nice and funny guy, John Pinder. And so he's the reason I started watching comedy. Like, he was the first probably local comedy show that I went to. And then so I'd watched him a few times over the years. And then from there, that's what sort of got me into going, oh, like the Comedy Lounge is actually a cool place to go sometimes. So would go there for occasionally. And then, yeah, the seeds sort of got planted last year and not doing it.
Yeah, cool. And is there sort of local groups of comedians that you do regular shows with that you sort of know now that if you're in that lineup, it's going to be a good night, or some people that you don't want to follow because they just have a different energy with the crowd and stuff?
Yeah, I think like it definitely does make a difference. Like, a good comedian's going to be able to turn any crowd around regardless.
Yeah.
But it does, especially because I'm still considered quite a new comedian, so I'm not as polished and as experienced in dealing with all those situations. So following someone it's really good to follow someone who's like really good. Well, you're actually not too good, because then you don't want to be like...
Yeah. I've heard a few guys have got like a lot of energy on stage and stuff like that, and they're almost just like yelling at the audience and they're killing it. Yeah. And then you sort of got to follow after that and just the energy shift. Yeah. So I think it comes down to sort of the MC that comes out in between and can sort of help change the energy of the crowd and sort of set it back up for the following comedian. So
makes a huge difference.
Yeah, cool. I might just cut to a song and we'll sort of regroup a little bit and then come back. You're also an apprentice tattoo artist. Yes. So just wanted to ask a couple of questions about that when we get back. But we'll go to a song for now. If I can load one, I probably should have preloaded a song. That's what a professional radio host would do. But I'll just make it up as I go. So.
Your voice, your community station. You are listening to IPL Radio.
Right, and we're back. That was a little bit of Californication by the Red Hot Chili Peppers, bit of a classic. You're now listening to The Late Show with Kit Adams, live on IPL Radio, here in the studio with my wingman Danny, a local comedian, Nikki Valentine. So sorry.
Okay.
And aspiring actor Robert Spence. Robert Spence, you're just telling me about a few acting classes you've been doing and stuff.
Yeah, you got one that's the Actors Hub, and another group that's called Actors in Perth.
Yeah.
And with the Actors in Perth, it's actually, they got a free 3-hour class if you just want to try it out.
Oh, that's all right.
Yeah. And it's just for people that want to get their confidence back. They don't have to necessarily be into acting.
And what sort of things you do in the classes? Like a bit of improv and stuff like that, or is it scripted, or?
Well, you get some scripted stuff, and then you got improv and just games that you play to develop a bit of character.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and do you get much out of it, like networking and sort of connections in the industry?
Yeah, because you don't really know who's out there until you actually go to some of these events.
Yeah, right. And have you yourself made connections and ended up going on to sort of network and do other things with it?
Yeah, because even when I go into networking nights, it's like you bump into people you know. It's like, it's good.
Yeah, cool. What about yourself, Nikki? Have you ever thought about doing any sort of acting classes and stuff like that?
I did when I was younger. I actually did acting classes as a teenager.
Really?
And actually, so since I've joined comedy, I do think it's probably a good idea for comedians or aspiring comedians to do improv classes and stuff, because one thing I struggle with is when I go off track, like if something happens that gets me away from my prepared set.
Run off on a bit of a tangent.
Yeah, and if like with crowd work, so like if you're good at improv, you'll be better at crowd work. Whereas my brain just goes to shit when I go off track. So I've looked into improv classes actually.
And so like you're talking about when you run off on a tangent can help sort of train you how to bring it back and get back on track to where you were. And
yeah, but also just be good at not actually going off on a boring tangent, like do improvised comedy on the spot, but like do it well.
Yeah, right. And I've seen classes at like the Comedy Lounge and stuff. Do you ever do anything like that for comedy classes?
Yeah, I've done some of their workshops that they've had there before, and they've also got an online course which I signed up for and I haven't actually.
Yeah, right. That's all right.
I'm actually like I'm an online course collector.
Yeah.
I buy so many of them, thousands of dollars worth, and I haven't used them.
And I mentioned just before we went to that last song, not only have you been getting into comedy, you've been getting into tattooing as well.
Yeah. I started an apprenticeship in May of this year.
Yeah, right.
That's like 6 months now.
Yeah, and how long does a tattooing apprenticeship sort of go for?
The industry is weird, so it's not like a normal apprenticeship in any other industry. So it kind of just is up to your mentor and how fast you learn. And even like I've seen really good artists that have been killing it from the time they've been doing it for probably as long as I have, and they're still apprentices at 3 years. And I've seen others doing it for one year. Like
really,
there's no set rules. It just depends on who apprenticed you and what they want to do with you.
Yeah, right. And how long until you're allowed to actually tattoo somebody? Is it sort of depends on the drawings you're doing and stuff first?
No,
or?
again, it depends on your mentor. So some mentors don't let you tattoo for quite a long time until you've practiced a lot on fake skins and stuff. My mentor, on the other hand, prefers to throw you in the deep end.
That's the way.
Yeah, right. Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right. And once you finish an apprenticeship, is it like you get a chair in a tattoo parlor and sort of that's your chair and stuff like that, or?
Well, you already sort of have a spot in a tattoo shop as an apprentice, and then when you're finished, you can either. So most tattoo artists work at shops and they're on a percentage, so they pay a percentage of every tattoo that they do to the shop, or you can rent a chair, which is usually for the artists who are booked out all the time and have a consistent income. Therefore, do the rent.
Yeah, right. And is there many politics sort of involved in it, and shops setting up too close to each other and stuff like that, or?
Yep, that still exists.
Yeah, right. Yeah, interesting. And so does it come down a bit to sort of who you know, whether or not you can get a go in the game?
Yeah. I think there are shops popping up that don't have backing.
Yeah.
So you're meant to. There's certain areas where you must have backing, or they'll shut you down, or
yeah, right.
That doesn't happen as often anymore. It's weird.
As often.
It's just weird because they're like, you've got to pay us for protection so that we don't, nothing bad happens to you by us.
By us, yeah. Yeah, that's crazy,
But the only shops that usually get like firebombed is because one club is not happy with the club who owns that shop. So it's like if they weren't involved, we wouldn't have them there. Yeah. Anyway, I should probably shut up.
Nah, you're right. It happened. There was one just down here at the Rockingham Foreshore that got a couple of years back, and it's been shut down since. I don't think they've opened back up.
They opened back up next to Macca's.
Oh, is that them? They moved over there. Yeah, right. Oh, interesting. Maybe they're allowed to do it there. So
one of my friends' shops got firebombed. That was a couple of years ago as well, but they rebuilt.
Yeah, right. And you've got a bit of ink yourself.
Have you before you have you? So you've been doing any work? Have you been putting ink into skin?
Yeah. So I started quite quickly. So yeah, I was tattooing today actually. Actually, I tattooed another comedian, Mick Bedhill. He's a really good local pro comic. He wanted, because he served, he did a lot of time in the army in Papua New Guinea.
Yeah.
He's like a, I don't know, 34-year veteran or something. So he wanted the Papua New Guinea emblem.
All right.
I did finished on him today.
Yeah, awesome.
All right. How long something like that take you?
So we did a lining session a few weeks ago, which was probably about 4 or 5 hours. So there was a lot of line work in it, and then today it was just shading, so it was only a couple of hours of just nice, easy shading.
Yeah, cool.
It's very cool. Cool that you get started with, you started your apprenticeship in May and you're already into putting ink into skin. So
yeah,
it's
yeah. I've already done a few expos as well. So I did a couple of I did the Perth Tattoo Expo, and I just come back from the Sydney one a couple of weeks ago. So that was good. Again, it's like sort of thrown in the deep end, and I was really busy. The Sydney show didn't have a big turnout, but because I was doing lots of little tattoos, apprentice tattoos, they were really popular. People, I guess, were coming and didn't want to spend a lot of money. So I was booked out, and there were other people that were like, didn't get any bookings for the whole weekend. But
Do you ever get requests for tattoos? Or do you just think, like, why?
oh yeah.
Yeah? And you still go ahead and do it?
Yeah, I don't care.
Yeah, right. And is there any tattoos? I mean, I know you're still fairly new in the game, but is there any that you're just sick of doing yet? Like,
nah, it's still very much a novelty to me. So like all the other artists, they're the ones who are like, oh, they don't know.
Yeah.
All the typical white girl tattoos, which to be fair, like I'm covered in typical white girl tattoos, like a little butterfly,
butterflies and stuff like that, a couple of roses and stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
And I know there's a couple of areas on the body that are more painful to tattoo than others, things close to the bone, elbows and stuff like that. Is there parts of the body that are harder to actually tattoo?
Yeah, so I predominantly tattoo arms and legs, so I'm meant to try and stick to doing arms and legs because they're much easier.
Yeah, right.
So I've, like the one I did today was like below the ribs. It was on his side, but it was a really tricky spot because it's on his side and kind of went onto his stomach. And he's an older guy with a bit of a dad bod, so it's a weird shape, and you got to try and stretch it out, and it's it's a different kind of area, and everyone's skin's different too. So you get some people who like they're really stretchy and like shit, like you got to get a good stretch to get a clean line, and yeah, it's really tricky sometimes, but yeah, it does make a big difference depending on where everybody you're tattooing.
Yeah, and tattoos have sort of becoming a lot more popular lately and stuff. I know you've only been doing it since May, but have you noticed a change in demographic of people that are coming in to get tattoos and stuff?
When did I get I got my sleeve probably like 12 or 13 years ago, and there weren't many girls with sleeves back then. It was it was a lot more of a unique thing, and now everyone's got one. No, not everyone, but it's a lot more common now.
Yeah.
And like even in the workplace and stuff, there's people in offices that are covered in tattoos, which was not as common.
Yeah, right.
Even 10 years ago, there wasn't as many.
Yeah.
It was people getting tattooed, but not as much as they are now.
And a lot of guys go for the typical sleeve. Is that just like the go-to for guys at the moment?
There's definitely trends. Yeah.
Yeah.
So at the moment, it's a lot of like the Chicano scenes, like the women with the masks and the hot cars and things like that, and the playing cards, like the casino scenes and stuff like that.
And there's sort of like specialties as well, like sort of shading and then the black and whites and stuff like that. Is there any particular thing that you really want to focus on and do?
I'm still learning, so I'm still I haven't really found my niche yet, so I'm still just sort of trying everything. So, but I definitely have things that I prefer, like myself, with the style that I'm into for me to get tattooed. But I think the more I tattoo others, the more eventually I'll find what I like.
Yeah, right. Sort of slip into your niche and stuff like that and find what works for you. What's been harder to sort of get into, comedy or tattooing?
They're kind of on par. Like I
was thinking that.
The pressure and the anxiety I get is probably equal.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And do people ever just give you sort of free rein when it comes to tattoo, and they just say, I want a piece for my back, do a design for me?
Not so much with me because I'm an apprentice. people aren't usually coming to me for like bigger pieces at the moment. Like I have had actually one chick who she wants me to start a sleeve, but apprentices don't normally do sleeves, so we're just at the moment doing like piece by piece, and my mentor is going to help me sort of help it
join it all together.
But she's sort of giving me free reign. But I don't like that because I struggle making decisions. Small, like big decisions for myself I can make in an instant, but decisions for other people or little decisions like what do I order off Uber Eats are really hard.
yeah, right.
So I prefer to have like something to go on, and then I can
Yeah, sure. And just sort of take, like you're saying, you want something to go on. Does that mean you sort of want to get them to know the people that you're creating a tattoo for?
Well, I'd rather them have an idea of like
have some input with it
and some reference pictures of what they're into, because sometimes someone will like just give you a very vague idea, and then so you come up with something, and then they very specifically don't want what you've got, and then they're like more like this. I'm like, well, you could have just showed me that from the start.
Yeah, right. And do you have like quite a portfolio of all pictures, and you must have been drawing for a while now before you started tattooing?
Yeah, so before I started tattooing, I used to just draw mostly realism. So I like to draw people, and but I hadn't actually drawn a lot in the last few years because I've got ADHD, and I've always got a different hobby. So
yeah, I'm similar. Danny actually tells me all the time I start things and never finish them properly, and I just lose interest, or it's not so much that I lose interest or don't want to finish it. It's just something else gets my attention.
Exactly. I go through phases with things, and like drawing had its moment a few years ago, and then it was on the back burner because I was into photography, and then I was into singing, and now I'm into comedy, and now I'm into tattooing, so now I've got to draw again.
You just mentioned singing. How are you going with the singing?
I don't really sing much anymore, but that singing used to be like the main thing that mattered to me, and then I haven't sung in ages, I think, because I've just had so many other things going on. Like I don't even sing in the shower anymore, but that's how I used to do that all the time. How
do you feel about Idol coming back?
I didn't even know.
Yeah, apparently Idol's coming back again. Just when you thought it was dead, they resurrected like Neighbours. Neighbours wasn't even dead that long, and they brought that back.
It kind of sounds like Big Brother. Like everyone lost interest in Big Brother.
Yeah, and then they just keep on whipping that dead horse.
I remember I liked watching it when I was like younger, but I haven't watched any of the recent years.
And do you have to keep up to date with sort of recent events and stuff like that to draw material from them and stuff like politics or?
Yeah, you can. It's like some comedians do a lot of that. There's another local comedian, Corey. He does a lot of current political comedy or current event comedy. I don't really do a lot of it, but I probably should, because I think people in the audience like to know that you're not just like spinning off some spiel that you've had prepared for ages. Like if you can go in and tell a joke about something that was on the news the day before. Yeah.
And it's all new and fresh and stuff like that, and sort of relevant to what's happening at the time. Yeah, right. You remember the Late Show with David Letterman? And now it's run by Stephen Colbert. I catch it when I knock off here. It's like 12 o'clock. I get home, and the Late Show is Stephen Colbert, and you don't watch any TV, so you wouldn't know. But yeah, he took over for Letterman, and he just hates Trump. And he sits there and does political humor the whole time now. And the whole show he used to have the Late Show with Letterman. They used to have celebrities on there and stuff like that. I swear to God, now they just have politicians on. It's ridiculous. I think he's milked the sort of political humor a little bit too much. But yeah, and sort of local celebrities and stuff like that. Do you draw on any of that?
I haven't really. I've got a couple of bits that I've only tested once or twice on Gina Reinhardt, if you could call her.
Mm-hmm.
She's like a political celebrity.
She's a little bit of both, yeah.
But no, not really. Yeah, some do. I just haven't. I'm still the butt of most of my jokes.
Yeah, well, I suppose it's you got to be able to take the piss out of yourself,
right.
and have a good laugh. So
I'm like the what's the word? If you didn't laugh, you'd cry. That's me.
Yeah, right.
Make light of life. So.
And do you find yourself doing that in sort of situations in life that other people are taking seriously? You sort of can't help but see the lighter side to it, and.
I think I've just always used humour as a
sort of coping mechanism sort of thing. Yeah, same. Yeah, cool. Did you have any more questions? No. Yeah, that's all right. I might try and find again. I should get songs ready before I just decide I'm gonna go to a song live on air. But we'll go to a little bit of Kasabian's Fire, regroup a little bit, and come back for a little bit of a chat in a minute.
Your voice, your community station. You are listening to IPL Radio.
We are back. That was a little bit of Fire by Kasabian. You're now listening to The Late Show with Kit Adams, and we've got a wingman, Danny, Nikki Valentine, and Robert Spence in the studio. Just sort of wrapping up and talking about any gigs we've got coming up and stuff, anything you want to promote. So you're just talking about a gig you've got coming up, Nikki?
Yeah, so it's on Thursday the 8th of December at the Rosemount Hotel, 7 p.m, and it's a comedy roast battle. So
nice.
Each comedian has an opponent that we've been teamed up with, and we just go all in on each other.
Yeah, cool. Just tear strips off each other and stuff like that.
So I'm really looking forward to it. It's my first battle, so.
Yeah, and you know who you're going up against?
I do, yep. My opponent is self-described. These are her words, not mine.
Yeah.
As a fat, red-headed trans woman.
Far out. That doesn't leave you much room to move. You've got to be careful of cancel culture these days.
Yes, I know, but hopefully the MC does a decent job of reminding the audience that we are meant to roast each other. But I also think that, there are lines, and I think there is a way to roast people without being a total jerk. I'm still going to be a bit brutal, but I think I'm pretty happy with what I've come up with so far. I think I've done it in a way that won't get me cancelled.
Yeah, that's all right. The whole sort of cancel culture at the moment, keeping everything PC, and just see some comedians that still, because comedians get away with it's all for a laugh and stuff like that anyway, and you get guys like Bill Burr who says stuff that a lot of people can't get away with, but just sort of get a feeling some people go too far and just know the line.
I think in general, there is cancel culture, but I don't actually think people don't generally get cancelled for that long. Everyone comes back.
Yeah.
But I have seen it on the local scene. There was one person who was sort of cancelled a little bit locally. He's still sort of feeling the effects of that. Can't always get gigs everywhere, but it does happen. I don't know. It's a hard one because
it seems like a bit of a fine line to walk at the moment, because you want to be a little bit edgy, but you got to be careful not to insult certain.
PC.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's definitely a line, and I think as long as what you're doing is witty, it's intelligent and it's funny.
Yeah.
Even if I hear something, sometimes I hear something and I'm like, oh, that's so dark, that's so messed up, but I love it.
Yeah.
It's funny, and it's a joke.
Yeah, for sure. As long as I suppose it's set in the right context, because it's all about the way you deliver it sometimes.
Right. And then there's some, I've seen a couple, definitely not professional comedians. It's more open micers who just don't really understand, or they're
a little bit cringy.
I've seen some of them come on and they just go straight for this dark stuff, but they're not doing it in a funny way. You're just trying to, and they think they're funny, and you're just you can do, I've got a rape joke. But it's not actually making fun of rape or rapists. It was just a funny thing my kid said and he misused the word. But there's ways of doing certain subjects without being a dick. And there's a few people.
And of course, I suppose you got to read the room a bit as well, and pick the crowd.
100%. There's certain rooms that I don't like, even some of my jokes that aren't that offensive, but I feel like some people, and so I'm actually talking about men here. So some of my jokes do really well in a crowd of women. Because it's about my experiences with dating and sex and stuff. And there's certain times if I walk in and there's too many men in the room, I'm like, they're going to get offended.
We'll leave them one out for tonight.
They're going to take it personally and think I'm talking about them. So I'll leave those ones out tonight.
So this gig at the Rosemount, there's going to be a few comedians lined up there, all sort of just giving each other crap.
I think there's going to be, off the top of my head, I think there's about 8 battles, so possibly about 16 comedians or possibly more. So everyone goes head to head. I think I don't even know how long we get, but I've been told to prepare at least 5 jokes against each other. So everyone has their round, and at the end the audience votes for the funniest comedian of the night, and they win a prize, and more so the title of the roast battle winner. So
bragging rights.
Yeah, that's
cool.
what I want.
yeah, that's the best bit. You can hold on to that. The money or the prize or whatever it is, that'll go, but the bragging rights, you can hold on to them.
Yeah.
So that's the battle. When was that at the Rosemount?
That is Thursday, the 8th of December at the Rosemount Hotel.
And like a ticketed event, or
Yeah, it is ticketed. So I'm pretty sure you can get tickets at the Rosemount Hotel website. Otherwise, it's being presented by Comedy Corp, which pretty sure on Instagram is just at Comedy Corp. But otherwise, go to the Rosemount Hotel. There'll definitely be information on their website.
Or they'd be able to, people will be able to follow you on Insta, and you'll
Yep.
sort of be promoting your events and stuff like that as well. Yeah. Yeah, cool.
So my Insta is at Nikki nikki.x.valentine.
Yeah, cool. And other gigs and stuff coming up?
Yep. So I've got a couple of gigs, I think, before the end of the year, but they're just like smaller open mic room ones. But then January, I'm producing my own show, which I think we touched on at the beginning.
Yep.
So I've got 5 comedians. It's a really fun lineup of different comedians. So it's mainly a girls' night, but everyone's welcome. I think there's going to be it's a mashup of comedians and male strippers. So it's held at a male strip club. So there will be male strippers serving us drinks during the comedy show. So there'll be an hour of comedy, and then they're going to entertain us at the very end with a bar top strip where they'll go full Monty. So yeah, it's like I'm sort of marketing it as the ultimate girls' night out. So it's like book your babysitters, get your girl gang, and
good stuff. Sounds like a good night.
Yeah, so I'm doing 4 nights during Fringe.
4 nights. Wow.
Saturday from the 28th of January, and then every Saturday after until the end of Fringe. And
you'll have the same comedians in for those 4 nights? Or?
No, so we've got the same. I've got an Tabo, who's going to be my MC for the whole run. I'll be doing each show, and then most comedians are doing at least 2 spots, but I've got a rotation of about 6, 7 comedians.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And you said you're producing the show.
Yeah, so it's my concept and idea, and so this is the first show that I've produced, but I have had like experience in the past with other events, not comedy. So yeah, as soon as I sort of got into comedy, I was already like, I'm definitely an ideas person, and I've always got like different businesses and side hobbies and stuff. So I was like, this idea came to me like pretty quickly, but I wasn't like ready to go for it. And then this time I was like, no, I'm making it happen for this Fringe Festival.
Is it hard to sort of make that commitment from just rocking up to stand-up gigs to then producing one and actually putting all your ideas out there?
At the beginning, I was nervous that I wasn't going to be able to get the comics that I wanted. Like I wanted to be the least experienced person on the lineup. So I know I'm doing pretty well, but I just wanted to be the least experienced, and I wanted pro comics for the rest of the lineup. And I wasn't sure if anyone would like be interested because I'm not as established, but everyone's been really the feedback that I've had about the show and the concept. Actually, I picked up a sponsor today.
Did you?
Yeah. So
another
comedian is he's got a comedy company, and so he's going to sponsor the show to help with marketing and stuff like that.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. So everyone's been the feedback's been great, and I've actually had pro comics asking for spots, so that's been unexpected. I was like, okay, so this is actually a good idea. I think it's going to be
actually sounds like a really good idea. It should be a good show and stuff like that. And is it sort of giving you inspiration? Have you got other ideas and stuff that you want to bring out, or?
Oh, I've got so many ideas. It's just the time
of course.
Work on them one at a time.
One thing at a time, for sure.
I definitely have bigger plans with this concept. So once this one does well in Perth, I'd like to travel it to the fringes around Australia. And even not fringe. So I think the concept could work well. So like the ladies' bar that I'm doing it at, they run so they have hens night. They're booked out every night that they have the strip club open. I think they do it twice a month. So it's ladies' night, male strippers twice a month, and they're booked out for hens parties for most of the year. So I think the concept could work. We could put on the comedy show maybe once a month at least, and just keep it going, see how that goes. But I do have other show ideas as well. I want to do this like comedy theatre show, and I'm still playing around with names. It might be called Blasphemous, or it might be called Bloody Mary. So it's a retelling of the story of Mary, Joseph, and Jesus. So I was raised a Christian girl, so I know all about the Bible.
Same.
But I recently I've got this joke, this is where the idea for the show came from, because I have a joke about, and it's called the joke's my Bloody Mary joke, and it was about the cocktail Bloody Mary and about that Mary. Anyway, so this whole idea spawned from it, and I'm like, how do I do a theatre show? Like, because it's comedy, but I want it to be like a comedy skit show.
Yeah, right.
I was hoping, I was like, I wanted to make that happen for this Fringe, but decided I've got too much on. So we'll get through Fringe and then I'll work on that idea. But yes, I definitely have to make that happen because in my head it's brilliant.
Yeah. Oh, cool. What's your sort of favourite venues around Perth to play?
So the Comedy Lounge is like probably my favourite room because the audiences, well, not really because the Comedy Lounge, well, I can do like the gong shows and any contests that they have, but the Comedy Lounge, they're probably the most pro room of all the rooms. So most of their lineups for the weekends comics anyway is all really experienced pro comedians. And then what I've noticed recently is people doing the gong shows that are winning. That's how newbies are starting to get their
name out there, get a little bit of exposure and stuff.
In the door because they've been giving them a chance on stage sometimes. So, but yeah, I mostly go to the Comedy Lounge when they have competitions and a gong show. And
Experimental Comedy Club.
Yeah,
Where's that one based?
That's in Northbridge. That one is it's actually a really cool venue because it's at Convenience, which is, it looks like a convenience store, and you walk in and then you open the fridge door.
Oh, behind the fridge door.
Yeah.
Oh, right, that's that one.
Yeah.
You sent me through a link to that one. Yeah, that
really
looks
good.
cool.
And it's definitely a good room for newer and like up and coming comedians because it's an open mic room.
So guys will just go up there and try out new material that no one's ever heard before and see how it goes. Or?
Yeah, or it doesn't all have to be brand new. Like I've sort of come into the industry with a group of people. We all sort of start at the same time, and everyone's kind of done it differently. Some people are coming in, and every time they're getting up, they're doing new stuff. Whereas I've kind of stuck to my main original topics, and I've just refined.
Yeah, right.
And I think that's working well for me. Whereas, but yeah, everyone's different. So some people are always trying new stuff. I always have the goal to try at least something new each time, but it's with still using my original stuff, but change it or tweak it.
Try and work something new in there.
Or add something new, just to see what works and what doesn't. And I think as well, so because I've got to where I have now and I'm quite confident that my set usually goes pretty well, I don't feel like I've got it in me at the moment to go back to square one with a brand new set and bomb. I just So it's good to know that, like, okay, I'll try a new joke, but I'm going to cushion it with some really good jokes so that I don't have to walk off stage embarrassed.
Have you ever had any jokes that have just tanked and you're like, I'm never doing that joke again? Obviously, I won't get you to retell the jokes if they're bad, but I was just wondering if you've ever just like written a joke off.
Yeah, I actually don't feel like I've never, I think most of my jokes, I don't think I've had to write any off, but I've definitely gone, okay, it needs work. But I feel like even when I've bombed the audience, I think it's the way you interact with the audience as well. And most of the times where I felt like it hasn't gone well, the audience is still enjoying themselves. And I think it's like how you deal with the bomb.
Yeah,
so
right.
And it's all a learn. So that's something else I used to tell myself when, especially in the early days when you don't always have, you don't always crush your sets, is it's all a learning curve. So like walk away and learn something from it and come back better every time. And I do feel like I do that. Like I feel like I'm always learning and getting better with each gig that I do.
Yeah, cool. That's awesome. Anything else that you wanted to sort of bring up while we're here? Anything you want to plug? What's the best way for people to find you? And
I'm most active on my Instagram.
Yeah.
I literally only just started a Facebook page so that I could make the event for my Fringe show. So I do need to sort of try and get some traction on that, but I'm on Instagram.
How do you go with Insta? I see guys like Martin Darcy, who was in here a couple of weeks ago. He's constantly putting up new content and material on Insta. Do you feel like
I think that's the key, is consistency, and that's like the bane of my existence, being consistent with anything.
Yeah.
And so I think consistently posting multiple times a day, and like some of it's hit and miss. Like you've seen, and if you follow Martin, you know some of it's like
hit and miss.
And some of it's funny, and some of it's not. But
he's doing it. He's making moves,
and that's why he'll end up doing really, really well, because he's prolific and he just keeps putting it out there. So.
He'll refine it and stuff, I suppose, and I suppose half the diamond is lost to the cut. So I hope all good things come your way. We might wrap it up here for tonight. Thanks for joining us, Nikki and Robert.
Thank you very much for having me.
It's been great. So I might just quickly chuck a song on and then we'll wrap this up and see you out.